If you feel constantly drained and emotionally exhausted, it may be connected to these three patterns: giving too much of yourself, doing too much in your everyday life, or striving too hard toward high or unrealistic standards. These patterns are actually different sides of people pleasing, and once you see clearly how they're affecting your life, you can start to change them. I'm a therapeutic coach with 18 years experience as a therapist, and I've helped many women understand where their exhaustion is coming from. In this video, I'll walk you through the three sides of people pleasing and the underlying dynamic that connects them so you can recognize these patterns in your own life and begin to make changes that lead to more ease and peace. I've come to see that people pleasing has three sides, all related with the same underlying dynamic, but each with a different flavor. You might not recognize a couple of them at first as being part of the people-pleasing picture, which can be why a lot of people might be drained from these patterns even when they don't identify with the term people-pleasing. I'll walk you through each one and then show you the dynamic that ties them all together. As you listen, notice which one you relate to most. These three sides have to do with giving too much, doing too much, and striving too hard. This first side I consider to be classic people-pleasing, where your effort is directed toward other people. In this category, you're giving too much, you give away your time, energy, or mental bandwidth to the point of depletion with a constant focus on other people. You might feel the need to manage or influence your relationships by giving, helping, accommodating, supporting, smoothing conflict, maintaining harmony, or seeking approval or praise. You expend a lot of energy supporting other people's comfort or emotional state, or meeting their needs, or helping them get what they want, often prioritizing those things over your own needs, wants, comfort, or well-being. What's going on underneath this is something you might not be fully aware of, so I want to talk a bit about some people-pleasing psychology. On a very basic level, maintaining belonging, connection, and harmony in a group feels like safety. Getting approval or praise reinforces that sense of belonging, so you learn to seek it through your behavior. This is self-protective and helps you feel secure. Because of this, there can be internal pressure to keep other people comfortable and supported and to prioritize their needs and wants over your own. In my free workbook, you'll recognize several themes that fit into this category of classic people-pleasing, including the helper-caretaker theme, the peacekeeper theme, and the good girl or nice person theme. The following are some specific patterns in this classic people-pleasing category. See if you recognize yourself in any of these patterns. You're more focused on helping, taking care of, or being there for others than on pursuing your own interests or taking care of your own needs. You're often trying to make people's lives easier or more comfortable. You prioritize what others need or want from you and put your own wants and needs second or last. You help, give, serve, and do things for others automatically to the point where it doesn't feel like a conscious choice anymore. You've been tuning into other people's needs and wants for so long that you're not even sure what your own needs and wants are anymore. You try to fix things or make people's problems go away, sometimes without being asked. You may struggle with asking for or accepting help from others. You feel you must always be nice and be a good person, even when someone isn't treating you well. You worry about upsetting or offending people, so you hold back your opinions, preferences, or honest feedback. You often say yes to requests from others, even when you're already overcommitted or overextended. You're afraid of being judged as selfish or self-centered, or of disappointing others, which often drives you to take on too much and makes it hard to say no. Before I go on to the second side of the triangle, I want to encourage you to download my free workbook, The People-Pleasing Primer. It puts the information in this video into checklists for a number of themes that fall within the three sides of the people-pleasing triangle to help you pinpoint the patterns draining you in your relationships, work, and everyday life. You'll also be able to recognize which kinds of people-pleasing are most problematic for you, clarify how much these patterns are draining your energy, and understand what you would need to change in order to feel less exhausted and more at ease. You'll find the link for that in the description below. The second side of the people-pleasing triangle is what I call overperforming or overfunctioning. In this category, your effort is directed toward tasks and responsibilities in everyday life. I jokingly call this one over-responsibilizing. In this category, you're doing too much and taking on too much responsibility. You're overperforming and overfunctioning at home, at work, in relationships, or across multiple areas of life. You might try to maintain stability by taking on excessive tasks and duties. Your energy flows toward managing life itself. What's going on underneath with this one, on a basic level, when everything feels handled and managed, that feels like safety. When you're competent, productive, and reliable, the systems in your life stay stable and running well, and you feel more settled. There's a sense of control over your environment, which feels more secure than things being unpredictable or unstable. And because of this, there can be internal pressure to take on responsibility, keep everything running, and handle it all, sometimes for other people and sometimes just for yourself. In my workbook, the themes that fit into this category are called the overfunctioning and overdoing theme and the overly responsible theme. The following are some specific patterns in this overperforming or excessive responsibility-oriented category. See if you recognize yourself in any of these patterns. You feel responsible for keeping everything running and keeping everything on track for everyone. You feel compelled to do all the things all the time, even when they aren't essential or urgent, and have a hard time stopping yourself. You take on more responsibility than you have capacity for. You take on tasks that are not your own, and you may have difficulty staying in your own lane. This might be all the housework for your home, all the social planning for your family, all the things that you're asked to do for the school, all the things at work or in your social circle, and on and on. You take on responsibility for way more than your share of tasks. You might even take on excessive responsibility for other people's lives, their emotions, their happiness, and their very well-being. And you may find yourself micromanaging people. You often think, I have to do everything around here. And you might even feel like I have the weight of the world on my shoulders, or I'm holding up the sky, so to speak. You tend to function at a high level in everything you do, and you have a relentless drive to do more and accomplish more, even when it comes at a cost to you. The third side of the people-pleasing triangle is perfectionism or overachieving. While the previous side, overperforming, was about the volume of tasks and responsibility you take on, this side is about the quality and high standards you're holding yourself to. In this category, your effort is directed toward outcomes, how well things are done. Here, you're constantly striving too much or too hard, pushing yourself to reach unrealistically high standards. It's less about people and more about achievement and getting excellent results, often driven by your own expectations. In this case, the person you're trying to please is you. Your sense of worth becomes tied to excellence, correctness, or high achievement, and your energy flows toward doing things at the highest level possible. Doing things well can start to feel tied to value and acceptance. When you feel highly competent or like you've done a good enough job, there can be a sense that you've earned your place or pulled your weight, so to speak. And then you can finally feel that you're accepted, which brings that sense of safety and security. Because of this, you may feel internal pressure to make everything correct, right, accurate, or excellent as a way of proving your worth. This can be driven by your own expectations, not just other people's. The theme in my workbook that fits here is the perfectionist or achiever theme. And in practice, perfectionism often isn't about doing things perfectly. It can be more about trying to make everything as optimal as possible. So the terms over-optimizing and overachieving would fit here too. The following are some specific patterns in this perfectionism or standards-related category. See if you recognize yourself in any of these patterns. You feel compelled to do things to the highest standard possible and feel a constant sense of pressure, pushing, and striving to do things correctly, accurately, or even flawlessly. You feel that mediocre or average just isn't good enough, and anything lower than your highest standard isn't acceptable. You've been called, or may have called yourself, an overachiever, perfectionist, or type A person, and you have a relentless drive to accomplish more and do things better. You're always trying to optimize different areas of your life, your health, your appearance, your work, your home, your parenting, your routines, pushing yourself to improve or refine everything. You expect competence in yourself, and you may be harshly critical when you make mistakes or notice your own deficiencies or weaknesses. So you may take criticism personally and have difficulty accepting feedback. If any of these categories sound familiar, you're not alone. Many women struggle with these draining patterns. As I mentioned, they all share a common dynamic. You may have recognized yourself in more than one category, so it's important to understand what ties them all together. And here's what that is. All of these patterns involve consistently putting your own true needs and wants aside in service of something outside yourself. That might be another person's needs, wants, comfort, well-being, or approval, or it might be a task, outcome, result, or achievement of a certain standard. You prioritize someone or something external above your own well-being by not honoring or attending to your own rights, limits, needs, goals, and desires. Over time, you give too much of yourself for too long, and there's a real cost. You end up neglecting yourself, pushing past your limits, and abandoning yourself. This often happens automatically because the behaviors are so ingrained, and you lose track of what you want and need. Notice, too, that across all three of these sides of the triangle, you may be living with a high level of intensity, constantly striving and pushing. You might approach many areas of your life this way at a level that isn't sustainable in the long run. As you can see now, not all people-pleasing is about people, nor is it always about pleasing, which is why the term people-pleasing doesn't always resonate for some people, even when they struggle with a number of these draining patterns. Also, a number of these patterns are sometimes seen as strengths or positive traits, and women are often encouraged to develop them, which makes it even harder to recognize when they start to cause problems. It's important to see the full picture of these draining patterns and recognize which ones are costing you too much time, energy, and bandwidth. Once you see them clearly and acknowledge their impact, you can begin to make changes and move toward feeling less drained and more at ease in your life. And I want to add one more important piece. Only you can decide whether the too much part of these patterns is true for you. Many of these patterns aren't problems in and of themselves. Giving, helping, achieving, working hard, and having high standards can all be a part of a fulfilling life. The issue is when it becomes too much for too long and you stop paying attention to your own needs and wants. And that's when they start to take a toll. No one else gets to decide where that line is for you. It's reflected in how drained and emotionally exhausted you feel over time. Learning to notice the impact of these patterns helps you recognize when you've crossed that line. So, what patterns did you notice in your own life? If you identified with several of these patterns, or one or more of the sides of the people-pleasing triangle, they may be contributing to your feeling drained, depleted, exhausted, overwhelmed, and resentful. You've already taken a first step toward change by watching this video. Change starts with awareness. If you're ready to go deeper, you're welcome to download my free workbook to explore these patterns further. It's a self-guided tool that includes checklists for the different themes of people-pleasing to build further awareness at your own pace. And if you already have the workbook and want more personalized support, I also offer options for one-on-one coaching. You can find those in the description below as well. Thanks for watching.